This week on the 77% Street Debate.
Just having dreadlocks makes me criminal, yeah? So that has made me encounter the police so many times.
Most of these allegedly police killer cops, they don't wear uniform, they don't identify themselves.
So the police is actually a mirror of the society that we are.
The reforms that have been introduced have seen tremendous change.
Tremendous change? Is this what we're calling tremendous change?
No. I can tell you for a fact, the service that you see today is certainly not the service pre-2010 constitution.
The 77% has been to Italy, we've been to Germany, and now we're back in the capital city of Kenya, Nairobi. And it's in this country that in March a curfew was put in place as a COVID prevention measure. And it's reported by the Human Rights Watch that in the first 10 days of that curfew, 6 people died at the hands of police officers. And so today we're asking, who do you turn to when you need protection from the police? And as you can see, there are no uniformed police officers here. We did send them an invitation, literally camped at their office, but they didn't make it. But the show must go on. And so I'd like to begin this conversation with Perpetua Karaoke. She's actually from the Kayole Social Justice Center. But beyond that, you know, this idea of police brutality, it's not just abstract to you. It's affected your family in a very personal way. Could you please tell us about that?
In 2015, I lost my brother through the extrajudicial execution. So by then, I couldn't follow up the case because we had no idea or the strategy of how of reporting the case.
Can you tell us how your brother came to even be in contact with the police in the first place?
So from the story we were told by the police is that he went to his friend's house who was a wanted guy. And because he was drunk, obviously, and he went straight to sleep. And the guy got out and locked him from outside. And that's when the police came and executed him. And they used a silencer. It wasn't like a few neighbors had it.
There was no mention of you're under arrest, we're here for you because of such and such?
No.
I want to speak to Waiban, who is a musician and a blogger and a resident of these low-income areas, Mathare. Tell us what your relationship is like with police officers in your community.
2 months ago, I lost my cousin to the police. It was during the curfew enforcement, yeah? So he's walking home. It's past curfew. It's past the 7 o'clock curfew. But the police got to him when they launch attack and just start beating people randomly. So they got to him among many other people, but he somehow managed to escape, yeah, after being beaten severely. When he escaped is when he had an accident and dropped. He dropped on top of rocks that now ruined his spine and, you know. So we lost him to the curfew situation in Kenya. Yeah.
Have you been in a situation where you felt the police were being violent towards you?
Exactly. I've been in that situation severally, not once, not twice. I can't count, yeah. For one reason, just my physical appearance, just having dreadlocks makes me criminal, yeah. So that has made me encounter the police so many times, so much that I've become more adjusted to that. You know, like I know already how I will be able to respond to a policeman also based on how he approaches me.
So Dimas Kiprono is standing next to you. He's from Amnesty International. Does this sound like some of the reports you're putting in place? Because, you know, when you talk about the numbers, it's easy to forget that there's human beings behind them. What is the situation currently, if based on your own assessment on police brutality in Kenya and indeed the continent?
Well, this sounds quite familiar. Tragically, this happens especially in urban poor areas where the fight against crime is a fight against the youth of that area. So that the double tragedy is that these areas do not have social and economic opportunities, so that criminalization of the area is what happens, just like what happens in the US in black neighborhoods, where the police decide that the policing in this area is going to be punitive. We have seen very many cases, and during this COVID period, there have been 20 cases, 20 killings of young people,
Wow.
including a 13-year-old boy.
That's crazy. We're talking from March, because that's when we had our first case here in Kenya. 20 people.
20 people. And these figures are...
And all of these
contested.
can be linked to the police.
Yes, all linked to the police. The Independent Police Oversight Authority and the National Police Service have at least tried to start investigating and prosecuting these cases, but it's a drop in the ocean here.
You mentioned IPOA, the Independent Policing Oversight Authority, and Mr. Waiganjo, Commissioner, is here. We'll be getting to him shortly. But Byron, I have to come to you because we obviously don't have a police officer here, but you're the closest person we have to one. What goes through the mind of a police officer when they're in that sort of situation? You know, it's a threatening situation, or in the case of Perpetua's brother, what would lead a police officer to draw his gun and kill an unarmed person?
Fine. Let it be understood that the whole sum total of the activity that does happen, when it does in split seconds, especially when the police or any security operator with weapon systems in their hands, or just by themselves as an operator, comes up close and candid with anything that they want to address in a security conscious and a secure manner, has a lot to do with the backgrounds that come about as a result of what they are as a person, so which means the training, their selection, their training, their preparation, even up to the point where they're briefed on the mission.
But isn't isn't the training specific enough that you understand the times when you can draw your weapon?
Absolutely.
What situations?
So all that is covered in the training. Coming from a community of very high reliability organization like the Special Forces, I know for certain that when life is supposed to be taken, the decision is very, very critical. And so a life that's supposed to be taken is that which is been thought about so many times and be set up so many times in terms of decision making on the part of the operators. So the judgment around the practice of security and all the delivery of security service has got to be rethought, and the functions thereof in terms of even the training and the preparation, or even the brief of the particular operators that are going to undertake an activity, has got to be refined to the last minute detail of that operation.
So let's come to Mr. Waiganjo. We're hearing already some very staggering stories. So what you must be getting in your office must be out of this world. How many cases do you get on average of people complaining about police behavior?
Between March and close of June, we received over 500 complaints. And that's clearly a very large number. And but then I want to say that those are not police killings, for instance. Those range from assault and serious injuries, of course, police killings, but the others, police misconduct.
I mean, there's even cases of sexual violence I was reading on your website,
Yeah, police inaction, sexual violence, all manner of offenses that are purportedly done by our police officers.
All right. I want to come back to Perpetua because at the time of your brother's killing, IPOA had already been formed. And I'm just wondering if you had this information, if you knew that there was a body specifically designed to handle cases such as yours.
I didn't know. I didn't know. Okay, I knew there was IPOA, but I really didn't know its mandate or something, yeah. I later came after I became a HRD because most of my friends, even people I know in Kayole, were killed by police. So we sat down with my friends and we were like, what change can we bring in Kayole? Because internationally, Kayole was done in a negative way. So we tried as much as possible to create a better picture for Kayole. And first of all, is starting to document these cases because killings were being normalized in Kayole.
I want to bring in Zube, who is actually a businessman in Isili. And, you know, we're hearing that on the one hand, yes, police do use the idea that it's criminals to sort of behave how they want. But at the same time, you've also experienced real criminals coming and threatening your business. And you're saying, actually, we really need these police officers because if they weren't there, we wouldn't have an economy.
What used to happen in Isli, we used to have knife-wielding gangs, robbery with violence, and all those kind of things. So we, as residents and business people, sat down and come up with an idea of forming a community-based initiative and reaching out to police. how to mend these activities and all those things. And we lost a lot of people to these gangs and a lot of wealth to these gangs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're losing wealth to gangs, we're losing lives to gangs, we're also losing wealth to police officers and lives to police officers. But poverty seems to be intrinsically linked to police violence. The areas that we're talking about here, Mathare, Kayole, you know, these are all low-income areas. Why?
We have neglected certain parts of our society, and it really pains me when a group of society which is privileged can try to justify the killing and the lack of due process of a community that sits right next to them. We had the history of trying to solve societal problems, especially criminal elements, through operations.
There were kill squads.
Yeah, kill squads. And they were given carte blanche to go to communities, do whatever they want to those communities in the name of fighting crime.
Gosh, Mr. Waiganjo, let me come back to you because you're also a lawyer. So perhaps you can help me answer this question. How have we allowed our society to get to a point where words like killer cop are being used in everyday dialogue? How did we get here?
So what I want to say is that the society itself also uses the criminal elements within the service to do their bidding. For instance, there are people within the society who will use police officers to collect their debts. There are those who use police officers to go and threaten their business rivals. You see?
Literally be used as hired guns.
Yes.
So how many convictions has IPOA managed to get?
6 convictions on life sentences and hanging. But I don't want you to look at that statistic.
Come on. But one must do that. We understand that the cases take really long and our judicial service also has its problems. But if you're saying 500 complaints in a span of a couple of months and 6 convictions since the body was formed.
I want to bring you up to speed.
Please.
First of all, the convictions are not the complaints. All the complaints that we get do not add up in court, because we sieve them. We look at what is within our mandate. What is not within our mandate, we delegate to other responsible multi-sectoral organizations that handle those matters. So what we are left with is what we follow. But we have come so far. The government has a goodwill, I can say that, without fear of contradiction, because the reforms that have been introduced have seen tremendous change in the manner in which officers and citizens are living together.
Tremendous change. Is this what we are calling tremendous change?
No. I can tell you for a fact, for sure, that the service that you see today is certainly not the service, the force that was there pre-2010 Constitution.
But Zeba, you did want to say something with regard to what you had started earlier. Businesses, the economy, and the duty of police to protect wealth as well.
I want to make clear that police brutality is something that is very serious and not to wish on anyone. There are some places when it goes to 6 p.m. you can't pass. Yeah, some criminal gangs used to stay there and they used to take everything. Yeah, without the partnership of the local community with the police, we couldn't have ever seen peace.
Okay, yeah. But I'm asking if this kind of relationship can exist in a place like Mathare.
So when we did a community dialogue to talk about police violence, and we invited policemen, we invited the OCS Pangani, we invited a bunch of police there from Huruma, from all these places, never showed up. Have invited them for many other forums where it's just dialoguing with the community. The police never show up.
Okay. I want to ask Perpetua. She's very mesmerized by the sunset. It's quite glorious today. But do you feel like the community, the police in your area are working for the community, or is it a case of repeat here?
We did a dialogue at Kayole police station, but the community didn't show up. By the community, I mean the youth, the male youth especially, because there's this fear of police. And there's this fear a police can never be a friend.
Understood. Byron, solutions?
So my solution would be that the police, being the big brother here, have got to operate at a higher pedestal when it comes to the way they address themselves to insecurities. and how they also apply themselves to the provision of security service. Someone would say that you cannot hold land talk with sheep. So it's the police is actually a mirror of the society that we are, and I think we fairly much the populace has dropped its dropped the ball somewhere with regards to the way we conduct ourselves.
Okay, Perpetua, very quickly, we opened with you. I'd like to hear your final thoughts and also what you think can be done to bridge this gap between citizens and the police.
Most of these allegedly police killer cops, they don't wear uniform. They don't identify themselves. We don't know who they answer to, because sometimes we'll go to the police station and report a case, and they'll say, come later. Or they can't even give you an OB number if this case is directly to the policeman. So my
solution
is this police reform to be implemented everywhere in this country, because we are all citizens of this country and we deserve to be treated with dignity.
Oh, we do deserve to be treated with dignity. I can't think of a better place to wrap up this conversation. Thank you so much to my panel who've been so gracious to stand with me as the sun goes down. I think what we can take away is that the police officers are being asked that their slogan, utumishi kwa wote, service to all, needs to be to all. And from the community, service from all, that we also have a responsibility to play in this. Thank you all for watching.